So let's begin. Grab your journal if you want to take notes, and let's dive into the presentation. Okay, so this is going to be an overview of the neurological foundations of emotions, consciousness, and spiritual growth. So let's begin with the concept of self-mastery. What is self-mastery? Self-mastery is simply the ability to be in your chosen state of being at will, regardless of the circumstance. And I think upon hearing that definition, a lot of us probably think, oh, sounds super easy, right? Just be able to shift my state of being at will no matter what circumstance I'm going through. So I want to quantify what this means. Mastery is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's not a state you just arrive at one day. We're talking about degrees of mastery, right? And so even if you can just cultivate the ability to master the alpha state, for example, and know how to generate higher amplitudes of alpha when you need them to ground yourself, even that is a component of self-mastery. That is a certain degree of self-mastery. Because yeah, maybe you can't get into the gamma state when life is throwing the kitchen sink at you, but you can get into alpha. Any one of you can do it. In just a few days of training and focusing on this, you can train yourself through some of these techniques to drop into that grounded state of alpha, where you can then meet your life challenges from a more integrated space of awareness. So mastery is a journey, not a destination. Now, what about the neurological nature of emotions? Well, emotions are a neurological feedback of your state of mind. This is another core teaching in Ford University, right, on the emotional guidance system, that your emotions are reflecting your state of mind. And so when you are thinking or perceiving out of alignment with eternal truth, your emotions have to let you know in the form of a negative emotion. So in even simpler terms, it must feel bad to think out of alignment with the universe, with reality, right? Otherwise, how would you know? How would you ever know that you're thinking incorrectly about reality if it always felt good, right? You would never know. You would never question your thoughts. And so emotions are reflections. They're neurological feedback of our state of mind, and we should be thankful for them. And by shifting your brainwaves, you shift your mind, and therefore your emotional state. So our brainwave states are a couple orders or a couple degrees away, but connected to our emotional state. And then here's a quote from a neurologist, I believe, Dr. Candace Pert. She said, "The chemicals that are running our body and our brain are the same chemicals that are involved in emotion. And that says to me that we'd better pay more attention to emotions with respect to our mental health." Great quote. So something we touch on in meditation mastery as well is the 4 dimensions of mind. And that these 4 dimensions of mind literally are our 4 brainwave states. So the brainwave states, the frequencies, the bandwidth of frequencies that our brain produces, which really isn't categorized, right, into 4 sections, but this is the way our human mind has come to understand our brainwave states, is we classify these bandwidths of frequency into these 5 sections, right? Beta, alpha, theta, delta, and gamma. But really your brainwaves are all connected and it's an infinite spectrum. But for the sake of understanding them better, we can look at the 4 dimensions of sacred geometry and then map them onto our brainwave states to understand what these brainwave states are, because they are direct metaphysical correlates. And so the 4 dimensions of sacred geometry, are points, lines, planes, and solids. And those 4 states map onto alpha, theta, delta, and gamma. So let's look at it. Our brain operates across several measurable frequency bands, each correlating to specific states of consciousness. The 4 dimensions of sacred geometry are a metaphysical correlate to the 4 dimensions of mind, each of which is defined by a unique brainwave state. So the first dimension is points, as I said, which represents focus and concentration in the mind. So focusing on a point, right, represents concentration. That's the first dimension of mind, is the ability for the mind to concentrate or localize its attention on one object at a time. The second dimension of the mind is lines. So lines represent contemplation and understanding. So think about lines as connecting the dots. This is the second dimension of mind, in that our mind not only has the ability to focus on a single point, a thought or an object or something, but it can also draw parallels between points, can't it? We call this understanding. When you connect the dots, you are understanding something. And so contemplation is kind of the second dimension of mind, if we want like a simple term for it. The third dimension is planes, which represents circulation and evolution in the mind. So this dimension, the third dimension, represents how the mind learns and condenses concepts by repeating them and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. And the more you circulate a concept through the mind, the deeper it gets embedded into the mind, right? The more important your mind thinks a concept is, the more you repeat it and circulate it and think about it. And so this is the third kind of function or ability our mind has. And then the fourth dimension is solids. And solids represent expansion, or the expansion of consciousness beyond the mind. So the mind can also expand beyond its own limitations through the gamma state. So let's look at the 5 brainwave states, beginning with beta. Beta waves calibrate between 8 to 12 hertz, and they represent our active thinking mind. So thinking, stressing, problem solving. This is kind of our survival mode, where, as I said, about 92% of people chronically live and operate. Most people are trapped in beta, trapped in thought. Beta brainwaves are for our thinking, waking mind. It's alert, it's focused, it's highly task-oriented. And so this is good, right? Not bad. But most people live in this brainwave state 95% of their life, chasing endless tasks and desires and overthinking and stressing about everything. And so there's a couple more things I want to say about beta really quick before moving into alpha. Let me just stop my screen share really quick. So I just want to say a couple things about beta to lay the groundwork for the deeper 4 states we're going to dive into today, because beta gets glanced over a lot in these kind of conversations. But as we all know, beta is the thinking mind at work, right? It's what helps us function in everyday life, making decisions, planning, analyzing, predicting, contemplating. These are all good things, yeah? It's only that too much beta without balance of the deeper brain waves can then lead to this chronic anxiety and overthinking and mental exhaustion. And that's why everyone in the world today is stuck in their heads, because they're living in high beta all the time and they don't know how to balance it with the slower, deeper brain waves, except when they fall asleep at night, right? Which they don't really get to enjoy those brainwave states in sleep so much. So for all these reasons, beta gets the rap of being the bad brainwave pretty often. And I want to nip that in the bud, because this is, of course, not the case. The creator didn't make anything bad, not even LDL cholesterol. Beta brainwaves are foundational to the human experience. It's a beautiful brainwave state to be able to think and process analytically and conceptually. Most of you are probably in beta right now as you're listening and enjoying this webinar. And I think it's also important for us to know that we also should try to master the beta brainwave state as well. That's also essential, because beta is what allows us to bring our creativity into the world and our ideas into the world. And so the only problem with beta is remaining in it for too long. Beta is kind of like a snowball rolling downhill in a sense. It builds up inertia and momentum the longer you stay in it. And so without regular dips into the lower states of stillness, like alpha and theta and so forth, that inertia just grows larger the more you think and stress over it. And it can become like you're now running away from a snowball downhill that you created yourself, right? Kind of like Olaf from Frozen or something. So if we don't balance beta with the slower frequencies like alpha and theta, then we just remain stuck in this kind of surface level awareness, and we never tap into the deeper insights that our deeper brainwaves have to offer. So that's a little bit about beta. Let's now look at alpha. Oh, you know what? I totally made a mistake here. This should say 12 to 30 hertz. My apologies. Man, you go over these presentations 2 or 3 times in prep, and then you catch all the mistakes when you present. Beta waves are 12 to 30 hertz. Alpha is 8 to 12. Sorry about that. Okay, so alpha state, again, is the state of concentration. Now, alpha waves calibrate between 8 to 12 hertz, and they're typically called the meditation brainwave, and we'll explain why in a minute. But they are the brain waves that generate that calm, detached focus, and when you're kind of in a creative flow. So like a light flow state is what alpha is like. Alpha also serves a very important function of being the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious. So it's the brainwave that takes the information out of the subconscious and makes it conscious. So we can do inner work on ourselves thanks to alpha waves. Alpha waves are also the brainwave for something called sensualization. Visualization is more theta, but sensualization is alpha. And to give you an example of what alpha waves are, or sensualization is rather, everybody close your eyes for a second, and I want you to imagine holding a bright yellow lemon in your hand and taking a big bite into that lemon and feeling the lemon juice going into your mouth. Now, when you do this thought experiment, most of you will probably experience some kind of physiological reaction, right? You can imagine it. Your saliva glands will actually respond sometimes. That is your alpha brain waves, my friends. They bring your ability to cause sensation in your mind into actuality, where your body will actually respond to what you're experiencing. So that's how powerful they can be. Now, as we said, they also represent the first dimension of the mind. Alpha brainwaves give our mind the ability to concentrate on a single object for extended periods of time, or to relax concentration altogether. And relaxing your concentration, which is called diffused awareness, is ironically also a type of concentration, isn't it? So concentration correlates to points in sacred geometry, like we have here, representing the first dimension of mind. Now, a couple of things I want to say about alpha really quick. So alpha brainwaves show up whenever we are in a relaxed but still alert state of mind. That's the key to alpha. Detached alertness, if we want to put it like that. So it's not like dreaming or drifting off to sleep or zoning out. We produce strong alpha waves whenever we are meditating, or if we're in a daydream we're really zoned in on, or in a creative flow of some kind, as I said. And so alpha is actually, because it serves as the bridge between conscious and subconscious, it's actually divided into 2 categories. Alpha 1, which is 8 to 10 hertz, and alpha 2, which is 10 to 12 hertz. Now, alpha 2 is the bandwidth that still operates in the conscious mind, but it reaches beneath into the subconscious mind and can take that data out and hand it off to alpha 1. And so that's why alpha is what helps you remember your dreams when you wake up and connect to inner imagery and have experiences with visualization. It's also the state that allows you to enter deeper states of consciousness on command. And so it is the most important brainwave to have a strong command of, in the pursuit of self-mastery, that is. Now, a lot of people associate alpha with being in a meditative state. And while that's partially true, it's really just kind of the gateway into deeper meditation. Because you can also be in alpha while you're watching TV or reading a book. And so it's not like inherently spiritual or something, as theta might be classified, for example. And so what matters is that this must be how you use alpha to slow the mind down, to relax the mind, and therefore to expand the mind, to become present and to access your inner world, right? Alpha gives us access to our inner world. And so that's really where meditation truly begins. And so although it's called the meditation brainwave, that doesn't mean it's the deepest brainwave state you can reach in meditation. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's move on now to the theta state. Hey, if you enjoyed this teaching and you'd like to try my 8-week meditation course to go deeper into this practice, you can click the link in the description below to learn more.